Welcome back, silent assassin. Welcome back, you walking paradox. Welcome back to the ones who never had to raise their voice to make the whole room go mute. They've been talking about you, haven't they? Oh yes, they have. Not to your face, never to your face, because they don't have the spine for that. But behind closed doors, in hushed tones, with nervous glances, they whisper the same thing over and over again. There's something different about them, something calm, something calculating, something we can't quite name. And what they can't name, they fear. What they fear, they respect. And what they respect from a distance, they'll never challenge up close. You've got what the streets call quiet violence intelligence, and it's the most dangerous frequency a human being can operate on. Let me tell you what that means, because most people will never understand it. Quiet violence isn't about throwing punches or breaking things. No. That's amateur hour. That's what people do when they've lost control, when they're still slaves to their emotions, when they're predictable. Quiet violence is the opposite. It's the energy you carry when you've mastered the art of being calm in chaos, silent in confrontation, still when everyone else is scrambling. It's the look in your eyes that says, I could end this conversation, this relationship, this entire situation right now, and I wouldn't lose a second of sleep. And people feel that. Oh, they feel it deep in their survival instincts. They feel it in the way their breath catches when you go quiet. They feel it in the way their excuses start stumbling over themselves when you just stare, unbothered, unmoved, unimpressed. You don't need to say a word. Your silence is a loaded weapon, and they know it. Intelligence, the kind you carry, isn't about degrees or diplomas or being able to quote philosophers. It's about reading the room in 0.3 seconds. It's about seeing patterns before they form, predicting moves before they're made, understanding people better than they understand themselves. You've been studying them, haven't you? Not because you're obsessed, but because you learned early on that knowledge is survival. You learned that the ones who talk the most say the least. You learned that the loudest egos are usually covering the deepest insecurities. You learned that people reveal themselves not in their words, but in their patterns, their inconsistencies, their reactions when they think no one's watching. And you've been watching. Not with judgment, not with malice, but with the clinical precision of someone who knows that understanding your environment is the first rule of dominance. You see through the masks. You see the fear underneath the bravado, the desperation underneath the confidence, the emptiness underneath the noise. And when you combine that quietness with that intelligence, you become something the world isn't prepared for. You become unreadable. You become a ghost in their algorithms. You become the person they can't predict, can't manipulate, can't corner, can't control. And that makes you the most dangerous person in any room you walk into. Not because you're violent in the traditional sense, but because you've weaponized your calm. You've turned your silence into a strategy. You've made your stillness a statement that screams louder than any tantrum ever could. They've never seen anything like you before. They've dealt with the screamers, the fighters, the people who wear their emotions on their sleeves like billboards. Those people are easy. Those people are predictable. Those people burn out, break down, and self-destruct on a timer. But you're different. You burn cold, not hot. You don't explode. You implode their expectations. You don't fight. You simply withdraw your energy, and they collapse without it. So now they're talking. They're trying to figure you out. They're running diagnostics in their group chats, comparing notes, sharing theories. What's their deal? Why are they so calm all the time? Why don't they react? Why don't they defend themselves? Why don't they care? And the answer is simple, beautiful, terrifying. You stopped needing them. You stopped needing validation from people who don't validate themselves. You stopped needing explanations from people who wouldn't understand the truth if it was carved into their foreheads. You stopped needing to be liked by people you don't even respect. You crossed the threshold. You became self-sufficient in a world addicted to dependency. You became emotionally sovereign in a kingdom of beggars. And now they can't do anything but watch you move through life like you've got the cheat codes, like you've seen the ending, like you know something they'll never learn. Because you do. You learned the secret they're terrified to discover. That the less you need from people, the more power you have over them. That the less you react, the more they unravel. That the quieter you become, the louder your presence echoes. Let's talk about what happens when you walk into a room, shall we? You don't announce yourself. You don't need to. The energy shifts before you even speak. The loud ones, the ones who were just dominating the conversation with their opinions and their jokes and their desperate need to be seen, they go quiet. Not because you told them to, not because you're intimidating in the traditional sense, but because something in their primal brain recognizes the predator in the room. And you are the predator. Not in a violent way, not in a malicious way, but in the way that a wolf is a predator. You don't hunt for sport. You don't need to prove anything. You simply exist at the top of the food chain, and everyone else's nervous system knows it. They feel the shift in pressure. They feel the temperature drop. They feel the sudden awareness that their performance doesn't matter anymore because the real power just walked in and it's not interested in their games. Watch what happens next. The egos that were inflated moments ago start deflating. The voices that were booming start lowering. The postures that were aggressive start softening. They don't know why they're doing it. It's not conscious. It's survival instinct. Because on some level, buried deep in their subconscious, they know that you're not someone to test. You're not someone to provoke. You're not someone who will give them the reaction they're fishing for. You see, most people operate on a very simple program. They poke, you react, they feel powerful. But you broke that program. You rewired the code. Now when they poke, you observe. When they provoke, you analyze. When they try to pull you into their chaos, you simply step back and let them drown in it alone. And that is what makes you untouchable. Not because you're distant or cold, but because you've mastered the art of non-engagement with things that don't serve you. You know what's fascinating? They thought silence was weakness. They thought your quietness meant you had nothing to say, that you were timid, that you were easy to overlook. And you let them think that, didn't you? You let them underestimate you. You let them believe their own narrative. Because while they were busy talking, you were busy learning. While they were busy performing, you were busy preparing. While they were busy seeking attention, you were busy building competence. And now the gap between you and them is so vast, they can't even see the bridge anymore. You're operating on a frequency they can't access. You're playing a game they don't even know exists. You're 10 steps ahead, and they're still trying to figure out step 1. And the beautiful part is you didn't have to announce it. You didn't have to brag. You didn't have to post about your progress, or share your wins, or seek validation for your growth. You just became it, quietly, violently, intelligently. Here's what they're really afraid of when they encounter someone with quiet violence, intelligence. They're afraid that you see them, not the version they present to the world, not the filtered, edited, carefully curated performance. You see the truth. You see the insecurity hiding behind the arrogance. You see the fear hiding behind the aggression. You see the emptiness hiding behind the noise. And when someone sees you that clearly, when someone looks past your mask and into your core, it's terrifying, because now they can't manipulate you. Now they can't lie to you. Now they can't play their usual games, because you've already figured out the rules, the patterns, the end game. You see people the way a chess master sees the board. Not just the current position, but the next 5 moves, the inevitable outcome, the patterns they don't even know they're repeating. And once you see someone that clearly, they lose their power over you. Completely. Permanently. That's why they avoid you. That's why they keep their distance. That's why they smile nervously when you're around but never get too close. Because deep down, they know that being in your presence means being seen. And most people can't handle being seen. They've built their entire identity on illusions, on personas, on carefully crafted narratives that fall apart under real scrutiny. But you don't need illusions. You don't need personas. You don't need carefully crafted narratives. You just exist in your raw, unfiltered truth. And that truth is so solid, so grounded, so undeniable that it makes their fragile constructions look like sandcastles at high tide. They feel inadequate around you, and they don't even know why. They feel exposed around you, even when you're not saying a word. They feel judged around you, even though you're not judging them. You're just existing at a level of authenticity they've never achieved, and it reminds them of everything they're pretending not to be. Let's go deeper into this quiet violence, because there's a technique to it that most people miss. It's not about being cold. It's not about being emotionless or robotic or distant. It's about controlled intensity. It's about knowing exactly how much energy to give to any situation, any person, any moment. You've learned the art of calibration. When someone tries to escalate, you de-escalate by simply not matching their energy. When someone tries to pull you into drama, you respond with calm that makes their chaos look ridiculous. When someone tries to provoke you with insults or passive aggression, you respond with a level of maturity that makes them look like children throwing tantrums. This isn't weakness. This is mastery. Because you've figured out that the person who controls their emotional state controls the entire interaction. The person who refuses to be moved controls the board. The person who stays calm while everyone else loses it becomes the automatic authority in the room. Think about it. When everyone's panicking and you're the only one calm, who do they look to? When everyone's arguing and you're the only one silent, who holds the real power? When everyone's reacting and you're the only one observing, who sees the truth? You do. Because you've developed something most people spend their entire lives running from: emotional discipline, mental fortitude, psychological sovereignty. You've built an internal kingdom that's so stable, so grounded, so unshakable that external chaos can't penetrate it. They can scream, they can lie, they can manipulate, they can play their games, and you remain unchanged, not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things. Not their opinion of you, but your opinion of you. Not their validation, but your integrity. Not their approval, but your peace. And when you operate from that place, From that centered, grounded, sovereign place, you become magnetic in the most dangerous way. People are drawn to what they can't break. They're fascinated by what they can't control. They're obsessed with what they can't understand. And you are all three. They can't break you because you've already been broken and rebuilt yourself stronger. They can't control you because you've taken full ownership of your choices, your reactions, your life. They can't understand you because you've evolved past the level most people operate on. You're not playing checkers while they play chess. You're playing a completely different game on a completely different board, and they don't even know the rules. So they watch. They study. They try to decode you like you're some ancient text written in a language they don't speak. And every time they think they've figured you out, you shift. You evolve. You become something new. Because you're not static. You're not stuck. You're not repeating the same patterns like most people. You're in constant motion, constant growth, constant refinement. Now let's address the intelligence part specifically, because this is where you separate yourself from the pretenders. Real intelligence isn't about being smart in a classroom. It's about being smart in life. It's about reading subtext. It's about understanding motivations. It's about seeing what people aren't saying. You've developed this radar, this sixth sense, this ability to walk into a situation and immediately know who's lying, who's scared, who's performing, who's real. You pick up on micro expressions, tone shifts, energy changes. You notice when someone's story doesn't line up. You catch the contradictions others miss. You see the manipulation tactics most people fall for. And you do all of this quietly, without announcing it, without calling people out, without making a scene. You just see. You process. You adjust accordingly. You protect yourself without ever having to go to war. This is what makes you untouchable in ways that have nothing to do with physical strength. You've built a mental fortress. You've created emotional armor. You've developed pattern recognition that keeps you 3 steps ahead of anyone trying to play games with you. They can't gaslight you because you trust your observations more than their explanations. They can't manipulate you because you see the strings before they pull them. They can't fool you because you've studied the playbook. You know their moves before they make them. You recognize their tactics before they deploy them. And this makes you the worst kind of opponent for someone who relies on deception. Because you don't fight them. You don't argue. You don't defend. You just see them clearly, completely, and then you decide they're not worth your energy. And that decision, that quiet dismissal, that calm rejection of their games, it destroys them more than any confrontation ever could. See, people who operate on manipulation and deception need you to engage. They need you to react. They need you to fight back so they can play victim. They need you to defend yourself so they can keep attacking. They need you to care about their opinion so they can use it as leverage. But when you don't give them any of that, when you simply observe, understand, and walk away, they have nothing. No ammunition, no leverage, no power. You've neutralized them without firing a single shot. You've won without entering the battlefield. You've dominated without ever seeming like you were competing. That's quiet violence. That's intelligence in motion. That's what happens when someone evolves past the need to prove anything to anyone. They just become proof. Walking, breathing, undeniable proof that there's a better way to move through the world. Let me tell you what happens to the people who encounter your quiet violence intelligence and don't recognize it for what it is. They make a critical mistake. They assume your silence means they can push further. They assume your calmness means they can test you. They assume your lack of reaction means they've won. And then, when you finally decide they've had enough rope, when you finally decide to set a boundary or walk away or simply stop giving them access to your energy, they crumble. Because they built their entire approach on a faulty assumption. They thought you were weak when you were actually just patient. They thought you were passive when you were actually just strategic. They thought you were unaware when you were actually documenting everything. And when reality hits them, when they realize they've been playing themselves this whole time, it's devastating. Not because you destroyed them, but because they destroyed themselves, and you just watched. This is the part they'll never tell you in those self-help books. Real power doesn't announce itself. Real strength doesn't flex. Real intelligence doesn't need validation. You operate in silence because noise is a distraction. You move in stillness because chaos is wasteful. You speak in precision because rambling is weakness. Every word you say carries weight because you don't waste words on things that don't matter. Every action you take has purpose because you don't move without intention. Every relationship you maintain serves you because you stop tolerating energy drains disguised as friendships. You've become efficient in the most lethal way. You've cut the fat from your life. You've removed the dead weight. You've burned the bridges that only led to places you didn't want to go. And now you're streamlined, focused, unstoppable. You know what the loudest egos fear most about you? Your self-sufficiency. Because loud egos need an audience. They need validation. They need constant reassurance that they matter, that they're important, that they're impressive. But you don't need any of that. You don't need them to think you're smart. You know you're smart. You don't need them to think you're strong. You've proven it to yourself. You don't need them to acknowledge your worth. You've established it independently. This drives them insane because their entire identity is built on external validation, and you've found a way to exist without it. You've cracked the code they're still enslaved to. You've freed yourself from the need for applause, and in a world where everyone's performing for likes and comments and approval, your freedom makes you alien. It makes you other. It makes you dangerous. They can't relate to you anymore, and that's exactly how you want it. Because the moment they can't relate to you, they can't manipulate you using shared experiences or common ground. The moment they can't understand you, they can't predict you. The moment they can't predict you, they can't control you. You've become something beyond their comprehension, and it scares them. Not in an obvious way, not in a way they'd admit, but in that subtle, gnawing, keeps them up at 3 a.m. kind of way. They replay interactions with you. They analyze your words. They wonder what you meant. They question whether you saw through them. And the answer is yes, you saw through them. You always do, because seeing through people has become second nature to you. It's not even something you try to do anymore. It just happens. The patterns reveal themselves. The masks slip. The truth shows up, and you're there to witness it. Ah, welcome back, you magnificent catastrophe. You glorious walking question mark that nobody can answer. They thought they had you figured out, didn't they? Thought they knew exactly what buttons to push, exactly how far they could push you before you'd explode. And you almost gave them what they wanted, didn't you? That beautiful, raw, unfiltered rage. The screaming, the breakdown, the moment where you finally lose it and prove to everyone watching that you were unstable all along. That's what they were waiting for. That's what they were banking on. your anger. Easy, predictable, containable. But here's the thing. You didn't give it to them. You did something far more terrifying. You went quiet. Not the quiet of defeat, not the silence of someone who's given up. No, you went into that cold, calculated, bone-chilling silence that makes predators nervous. The kind of quiet that shifts the air in a room. The kind of stillness that makes people check over their shoulder because they can feel something watching them back. They wanted your rage because rage is simple. Rage is loud. Rage makes mistakes. Rage can be documented, reported, used against you. Rage gives them ammunition. But what you're carrying now, this isn't rage. This is something they have no protocol for. Let me break this down for you because this is where it gets beautiful. Anger is a reaction. It's emotional, it's messy, it's human. When you're angry, you're still playing in their game, still responding to their moves, still dancing to the rhythm they set. They know how to handle angry people. They've got systems for that. Therapy sessions, HR meetings, conflict resolution, de-escalation tactics. They've studied anger. They've weaponized it. They know exactly how to turn your fury into your prison. But what you've developed, what you've become, they don't have a handbook for this. You didn't get angry. You got surgical. You didn't explode outward. You imploded inward and rebuilt yourself into something unrecognizable. You stopped reacting and started observing. You stopped defending and started documenting. You stopped explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. And that shift, that quiet, terrifying shift from emotional to operational, that's when you became the problem they can't solve. Because angry people are predictable. But people who've transcended anger, people who've alchemized that fire into ice-cold precision, those people are untouchable. They're watching you now with a different kind of fear. Not the fear of what you might do, but the fear of what you've already become. They see the way you move through spaces now, unbothered, untriggered, unmoved by the things that used to destroy you. They watch you smile when they expect you to break. They watch you walk away when they expect you to chase. They watch you build when they expect you to burn. And it's driving them absolutely insane because they can't figure out what you're running on anymore. It's not anger. It's not revenge. It's not even hate. It's something colder. Something cleaner. It's detachment wrapped in purpose. It's clarity masquerading as indifference. It's the energy of someone who's already died once and came back without the need for external validation. You're not fighting them anymore. You're not even acknowledging them as worthy opponents. You've moved into a frequency they can't access, operating on a level they can't comprehend. And that's what's destroying them right now, not your anger, your absence from their emotional battlefield, your refusal to be the villain in their story. See, they needed you to be angry because it would confirm their narrative. It would prove they were right about you all along. Too emotional, too intense, too unstable. They could point at your rage and say, "See, we told you. We knew something was off." But you denied them that satisfaction. You looked at everything they did, the betrayal, the lies, the sabotage, the years of psychological warfare, and you absorbed it. You processed it. You used it as data, not as trauma, as information. And then you did the one thing they never expected. You moved forward without needing closure from them. That's the part that breaks their brain. You're not waiting for apologies. You're not waiting for them to admit what they did. You're not waiting for karma to strike them down. You're not even waiting for the universe to balance the scales. You just moved. You rebuilt. You evolved. You became. And now they're stuck in the past, replaying the moments where they thought they broke you, trying to understand how the hell you're standing taller than ever. They thought destruction was the end of your story. They didn't realize it was just the intermission. Let's talk about what they're really afraid of right now. It's not your success. It's not your comeback. It's not even your transformation. What terrifies them is your stability, your calmness, your lack of need for their acknowledgement. They threw everything at you, the ultimate attacks. The betrayals that should have hospitalized your spirit, the losses that should have made you question your existence. And you just kept going. Not frantically, not desperately. You kept going with this eerie, confident stillness that suggests you know something they don't. And you do? You know that anger is temporary, but evolution is permanent. You know that revenge is a distraction, but becoming undeniable is a lifestyle. You know that screaming into the void gives them content to screenshot, but building in silence gives them nothing to analyze. You figured out the game they were playing, and instead of flipping the board, you just stopped playing. You started building your own board, your own rules, your own reality. And now they're on the outside looking in, watching you construct something they can't access, can't sabotage, can't even understand. Here's what's happening in their group chats right now. Did you see what they're doing? How are they so calm? Why aren't they talking about us anymore? Did they just move on? How did they move on so fast? They're obsessing over your silence because silence from someone they tried to destroy is the loudest sound in the universe. It echoes, it haunts, it replays in their mind at 3 in the morning when they're scrolling through your old messages trying to find the moment where they went too far. But here's the thing. There was no single moment. It was all of them. Every lie, every betrayal, every time they chose cruelty over kindness. And you collected it all. Not for a revenge plot, not for a grand expose. You collected it as evidence of who not to become. You studied them like a scientist studies a virus. You documented their patterns, their tactics, their go-to moves when they feel threatened. And now you're immune. You've seen every variation of manipulation they possess. You've witnessed every shade of fake they can perform. And because you've seen it all, they can't touch you anymore. They can't guilt you. They can't gaslight you. They can't ghost you and come back expecting you to forget. You've leveled up past their skill set. So now what? Now they're stuck watching someone they tried to bury bloom in real time. And it's not just that you're blooming, it's how you're blooming. With no acknowledgement of the dirt they threw on you, with no mention of the hell they put you through, you're just thriving, posting, creating, building, smiling, living, like they never even existed, like their opinion of you was never the anchor they thought it was, like their absence from your life was the permission slip you needed to become who you were always meant to be. And that is what's driving them to the edge of sanity. Because villains need their victims to stay victims. Bullies need their targets to stay traumatized. Manipulators need their supply to stay dependent. But you broke the script. You became the character who wasn't in the original story. You became the plot twist nobody saw coming. You became the one who survived, evolved, and ascended without giving them the satisfaction of a reaction. And in their world, in their understanding of how power works, that shouldn't be possible. But you made it possible. You are the living proof that you can be destroyed and decide not to die. Let's go deeper into what this really means, because this is where the power lives. When you were angry, you were playing their game on their terms. You were in reaction mode, defense mode, survival mode. Every move you made was in response to something they did. You were the effect and they were the cause. But the moment you stopped being angry, the moment you transmuted that rage into something colder and more focused, you switched positions. Now you're the cause, they're the effect. They're reacting to your silence. They're responding to your absence. They're triggered by your peace. Think about that for a second. Your calmness is their chaos. Your stability is their nightmare. Your happiness without them is their worst fear confirmed. Because if you can be this okay without them, it means they were never as important as they thought. It means their power over you was always an illusion you were kind enough to maintain. And now that you've stopped maintaining it, now that you've withdrawn your energy from their reality, they're collapsing. Not loudly, not publicly, but internally. In the quiet moments when they're alone with their thoughts and they realize, you really did stop caring. And here's the twist they never saw coming. You didn't stop caring because you hate them. You stopped caring because you outgrew them. You stopped caring because your life got bigger than the space their betrayal occupied. You stopped caring because you realized that giving them real estate in your mind was the last chain they had on you, and you broke it. Not with anger, not with revenge. You broke it with indifference. The kind of indifference that can only come from someone who's seen hell, walked through it, and came out the other side holding keys to a kingdom those people will never even see the gates of. This is what they're dealing with now. A version of you that doesn't need their validation, doesn't fear their judgment, doesn't chase their approval, doesn't even register their existence unless absolutely necessary. You've become a ghost in their life while being fully alive in yours. And that's the ultimate power move. Not revenge, not exposure, not even success. The ultimate power is becoming so focused on your own path that the people who tried to destroy you become irrelevant background noise, static on a frequency you don't tune into anymore. They wanted you angry because angry people make mistakes. Angry people send the text they shouldn't send. Angry people blow up publicly. Angry people give the performance that can be recorded and shared and used as evidence of instability. But you went quiet. And in that quietness, you became untouchable. In that silence, you became unpredictable. In that stillness, you became the nightmare scenario for everyone who thought they had you figured out. Because nothing is more terrifying than someone who should be broken but isn't. Someone who should be bitter but seems free. Let's address what this looks like in practical terms. Because I know you've felt it. The way they watch you now is different. The way they analyze your words, your posts, your energy, it's changed. They're not watching you with pity anymore. They're not watching you with superiority. They're watching you with something else. Something that looks like fear wrapped in curiosity, wrapped in barely concealed envy. They're watching you the way people watch a storm approaching, with fascination and dread, because they can see you building something. They can sense you becoming something. And they know, whatever it is, they're not invited. You've entered that rare space where your presence is a disruption. Not because you're trying to be disruptive, not because you're performing chaos, but because the energy you carry now is so fundamentally different from who you used to be that it bends reality around you. Rooms feel different when you enter. Conversations shift when you speak. People straighten their posture when you pass by, not out of fear, out of recognition. On some unconscious level, they recognize that you've walked through fire, and instead of being consumed, you became the flame. And this is where it gets really interesting. The same people who ignored you when you were hurting are now fascinated by you now that you're healing. The same people who were silent when you needed support are now loud with their observations of your transformation. The same people who left you in the dark are now trying to study how you found the light. And you know what? You don't owe them the blueprint. You don't owe them the explanation. You don't owe them a behind-the-scenes tour of your resurrection. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them make up theories about how you did, because the truth is this: what you did can't be taught. It can't be replicated. It can't be bottled and sold as a 5-step program. What you did was survive something specifically designed to destroy you, and in the surviving, you became immune to the poison. You developed antibodies against their toxicity. You built resistance to their manipulation. You evolved past the need for their narrative, and now you're operating in a dimension they can't access because they've never done the work you've done. They've never faced what you've faced. They've never had to rebuild themselves from absolute zero. So while they're trying to understand your transformation through the lens of their limited experience, you're 10 steps ahead building the next version of yourself. While they're dissecting your past, trying to find the moment you changed, you're already in the future, constructing something they don't have the imagination to conceive. While they're stuck analyzing the ashes, you're already the phoenix. And the distance between where you are and where they are, it's unbridgeable. Not because you're cruel, because you're focused. This is what evolution looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not performative, just steady, relentless, undeniable growth. You're not trying to prove anything to them anymore. You're not trying to show them they were wrong about you. You're not trying to make them regret their choices. You're just living. But living so fully, so authentically, so powerfully that your existence becomes the proof. Your life becomes the testimony. Your peace becomes the revenge they can't argue with. Because how do you fight someone who isn't fighting back? How do you hurt someone who's already transmuted pain into power? They're stuck in checkmate and they don't even realize it yet. Every move they make now just highlights their own insecurity. If they talk about you, they prove you still live in their head. If they ignore you, they prove they're intimidated by your growth. If they reach out, they prove they underestimated your value. If they stay away, they prove they know they've been replaced. There's no winning move for them anymore. The game is over. You won. Not by playing better. Ha ha! By stopping play. By building a completely different game they weren't invited to. And here's the beautiful part. The part that makes all of this worth it. You're not even doing this to them. You're doing this for you. Your healing isn't a revenge plot. Your growth isn't a performance. Your peace isn't a weapon aimed at them. It just happens to feel like all those things to them. Because they're so used to being the center of your universe that they can't fathom a reality where you orbit your own sun now. They're experiencing the withdrawal of someone who was their emotional supply, their punching bag, their guaranteed reaction. And withdrawal looks like pain, so let them hurt. Let them wonder. Let them watch. Let them scroll through your life looking for cracks they can exploit, weaknesses they can leverage, moments they can twist. They won't find any. Not because you're perfect, but because you're protected by your own growth, by your own standards, by your own refusal to give them access to the version of you they miss, the version that was easy to hurt. That version is gone, buried, evolved past. What stands in its place is something they created but can't control, something they awakened but can't contain. You are the consequence of their actions, the living, breathing result of everything they did wrong. And instead of becoming the cautionary tale they expected, you became the comeback story they feared. You became the example of what happens when someone decides that breaking isn't the end. You became the proof that you can be shattered and still choose to reassemble yourself into something sharper, stronger, more selective about who gets access to your energy. And that example, that proof, it haunts them because now everyone who watches your journey knows it's possible. Everyone who sees you thriving after everything they put you through understands that survival is a choice. Evolution is a decision. Peace is a practice. And you're the living testimony that you don't need your abusers to apologize. You don't need your betrayers to acknowledge what they did. You don't need the people who hurt you to change. You just need to change your relationship to the pain. You just need to decide that your future is more important than your past. You just need to choose yourself with the same intensity they chose to hurt you, and you did. Every single day, you chose you. When it would have been easier to stay bitter, you chose growth. When it would have been justified to plot revenge, you chose elevation. When it would have been understandable to give up, you chose to get up. And those choices, those daily decisions to be better rather than bitter, they compounded. They built on each other. They created momentum. And now you're not just moving forward, you're accelerating. While they're stuck replaying the past, you're creating the future. While they're trapped in who you used to be, you're becoming who you're meant to be. This is the part they'll never understand, because they've never had to do it. They've never had to rebuild themselves from scratch. They've never had to face their reflection after betrayal and choose to love what they see anyway. They've never had to walk through the valley of their own demons and come out the other side still believing in their capacity for good. They broke you, but they've never been broken. They hurt you, but they've never had to heal. So they can't comprehend the strength it took for you to get here. They can't measure the courage it took for you to choose peace over chaos. And that's why your silence is so loud. That's why your peace is so threatening. That's why your happiness without them is so devastating to their ego.